welcome back to Tarot Tats and Tea and to the VR tarot journey through decks that was created by Simon from the Hermit's Cave. I thoroughly enjoy doing VRs and I just find they're so meaty, and this one is particularly meaty. It has 4 prompts: the beginning, the deepening, the now and the milestones. And the milestones you can actually mention in any of the beginning, the deepening or the now. So it's not something you have to do specifically on its own. It can be embedded with the others. So where did my tarot journey begin? My tarot journey began 40 years ago, at the age of 18. In fact, this year it'll be 41 years ago. I was working in the Convent of Mercy at the time. I was working in the kitchens, and it was a nursing home run by nuns. The name Convent of Mercy gives that one away. And I was just in the sort of cusp of leaving that particular job because, as it happens, I was being prepared to enter into the convent myself. And I was working in the community for a little while before that, in the shop across the road to the shop in which I bought my first deck. Now this shop was like magical. That's the only way to describe it. I'd love to know if the owners are still alive. I don't know if they would be. But they were 2 really beautiful people. Very hippie-like. But there was just something so nice about them. When you walked into the shop, it had the glass front, it had the curved glass going out. So they had like 2 big windows in which they could display all their goods. And on the right side as you walked in, it was all handmade dolls' houses with miniature pieces of furniture, all handmade in the workshop at the back of the shop, and everything was just perfectly placed. Every house was perfectly furnished. They were like miniatures of Victorian houses. They were stunning. On the left side of the shop was the side that the wife ran, and there was all your hippie clothes to beat the band. And I used to save up my money to be able to go in and buy something from that shop. I loved going in there, and they were the sort of people that they didn't mind you going in just to say hello, just to browse, particularly like my age and, you know, at the time very little money in order to be able to buy stuff. But I had saved up, and there were these patchwork trousers. They were almost like harem pants, really. And with that I had a flouncy white top that went with it, so all the frills, these patchwork trousers. They didn't actually close around the ankle like harem pants do, but they sort of fitted that way, and I was a lot slimmer then. I was, 18 years of age, and I was as thin as a stick. And I had this black waistcoat that went with it, and sort of black granny boots. I just looked like a hippie. I had my hair was all braided from here down, beads, and then I used to wash the top my hair here in fabric softener because it made it so soft and straight, because my hair was like barbed wire. And I would blow dry it with this rock hard lacquer that used to be stuck up like a pineapple. And so I don't know, I think I was confused. Where am I a hippie, am I a punk, what am I? I was just me. I was me experimenting with all these clothes, just trying to find me. So I went in and I bought these clothes, and I was browsing, and I'd had a look at the doll's house stuff. And at the back of the shop, just behind the clothes, was a set of shelves, and that's where there were some crystals. Not a lot, just a little handful in little bowls. There was some incense. That was another thing that drew me to the shop, was the smell. It was, some people say it was cloying. I loved it. I loved it. And then on one shelf, just sort of eye level to me, there were 3 or 4 tarot decks. And I picked one up, and I had a look at the back of it and the front of it, and I thought, I am so tempted to buy myself that. But you see, the tarot was taboo then. When, we were a strong Catholic family, I worked in the Convent of Mercy, and I was being prepared to enter the convent, which I did. having purchased my tarot deck before I went. And I purchased this tarot deck and I loved it. The tarot deck I purchased was the original Rider-Waite deck. Okay, it's now it's completely different now. Pixie's name is incorporated, so it's the Rider-Waite Smith deck now. But it was the Rider-Waite tarot deck, the original Rider-Waite tarot deck. Now this is not the actual deck of cards, but it's identical, because I'll get to that in a minute. But this is the deck that I bought, and it had the little white book, similar to the little white book that's in here. Let me just get that out. It wasn't similar, it's exactly the same. You know, here's the white book and keywords inside, and that's all they were keywords. You know, now at the time I could read those. I can't anymore. I'd need the Hubble Space Telescope to be able to see that, because the print is so extremely small. But I keep it with this box anyway. So I got this, and that was my little Bible, because we didn't have the books on tarot that we have now. So of course, you know, a strong Catholic practicing family, and like I say, tarot was taboo. But it didn't stop me buying it. And I was talking to the lady behind the counter about it, and she said to me, "Oh," she said, "have fun with that." She said, "It's quite magical." And sorry there, Chester. Just knocked Chester with my legs as I picked my deck up. She said, "It's quite magical." She said, "But I think you'll enjoy it." Well, I got it home, and I used to share a bedroom with my sister, but I didn't want anybody to know that I'd gone out and bought a tarot deck, because tarot was sort of deemed as scary, deemed as a portal to hell, you would have thought, the way people carried on. And it was just frowned upon. It would have been considered as a sin in the Catholic Church. I think it still is. But I started to become familiar with the cards in this deck. I wasn't very good at interpreting them. I used to have to hold on to the little white book, and it was myself and my friends, when we got together, and we'd mischievously get the cards out and pull the odd card, and you know, we weren't familiar with spreads, etc., etc. And that's how it remained. It remained like that for a number of years, and it also remained inside my bedside locker. Of course, the day came when I left home and entered the convent, and I was sent to Haywards Heath in Sussex, to the convent there. I don't even know if it still exists. Haywards Heath does, but I don't know if the convent does. It was different. It wasn't the type of life I expected. Yes, it was prayerful. Yes, it was contemplative, which I enjoyed. But there was a nastiness. There was a nastiness there, not aimed at me. There were a couple of little things that people could say, "Oh, well, that was a bit bloody cruel." Look, it was life. And then we didn't sort of get het up about sort of things that people would get severely het up about today. You just sort of took it on the chin and carried on, you know. I think it made us stronger people, and it made us, many of us, some of us maybe not so, but it made many of us sort of say, well, I know what I'm going to tolerate and I know what I'm not going to tolerate. And then I saw how other people were treated, and I thought, you know, this actually isn't for me. And I used to take myself off for long walks, and then I was asked by the parish priest, because our convent was sort of on the grounds of the church and the priest's house and what have you, and he came along and asked would I help with the youth club, which I did. Now remember, I was 18. I was, in fact, no, I wasn't. By the time I'd gone in, I was 19, nearly 20, and you know, they wanted to encourage more people into the religious life, or to even just attend mass, because at that stage, around the 80s, people were starting to make up their own minds, and people were starting to see, you know, the church isn't always right, and they weren't bloody wrong there, that's a certainty. So what happened was, I ended up, between the jigs and the reels and things that went on, and things I witnessed, things I heard, things I experienced, and there's nothing cruel and unusual really, it just turned out it wasn't for me. So I decided to go home, and that's when I became a little bit poorly, because every block that could be put in front of me to go home was put in front of me. Oh, we'll take you for a holiday, you can see your parents, because you weren't allowed to see your parents for the first year. You weren't barely hardly able to talk to them on the phone, always somebody listening. And I said, no, I'm going home. And I started losing weight. I started getting very sick, weak. And they took me to the GP, and he said, this girl is extremely homesick and she needs to go home. And this was said at the convent, and look, the other ones, yeah, okay, Elaine, that's fair enough. But the novice mistress, no, I'm going with you on the train. I'll take you, and we'll stay at the Convent of Mercy in the town you're from, and we will go visit your parents and come back. No. Nope, I'm going home. So things start to get a bit tense and conversations very terse. It was not very nice, and the day came when we were travelling back to North Wales, and we drove to my father's house, and I took my case out the car. No, leave your case in here, that's coming to the convent, you're coming back, I'll come and pick it up this evening. I said no, and I grabbed my case and I ran up the steps, and my mum and dad answered the door, and they were delighted to see me. I said, I'm coming home. I said, I don't like it, it's not for me, I want to come home. Well, my dad opened the door, got my case, and the nun came up, sat in the house. My dad said, would you like a cup of tea? Oh, no, she said, I'm going to go down to the convent now. She said, I'll be back for Elaine this evening. I said, you won't be back. I said, I'm not coming back, I'm staying home. No, my dad said, my daughter is home. She's told you she's not coming back, and that is the end of it. So this woman was sent away with a bit of a flea in her ear, and that was it. I was home. But I ended up under the care of the GP for about 5 weeks. I had to go to him every week for 5 weeks, because he was quite concerned about how sick I had got, and that it affected me, my mental health, and depression was a concern. And it's amazing what these organisations can actually, the effect they can have on people. And it was quite awful. So I went back up to my room, and I was unpacking my stuff, and I opened my bedside locker, and there was my friend. So I started browsing through it, I started looking at it again, and I started taking more of an interest in it. Naturally, at that point, I had stopped attending Mass, and because the hypocrisy of people that were attending the church was phenomenal. When prior to me leaving to go into the convent, it was announced that Elaine would be going into the convent, and we were very proud and lovely for our community, lovely for the church. And you're sitting there thinking, I wish you'd do it quietly, because I don't even know if I'm going to stay there yet. Let me go. And it's almost like you're pressured to stay from the minute you decided that that's the type of life you wanted to live. And the pressure was too much. There was an awful huge amount of pressure, and it wasn't right. It really wasn't right, and it's not natural. It's certainly not natural to live a life like that. If people want to live a contemplative life, yes, go ahead and do it, but sometimes I think nuns then entered because they had to. It was expected that at least one Catholic family had at least one person that had something to do with the church. It was quite intense, to be honest. And when I got back, I went to go to Mass the following Sunday, and not one person spoke to me. I was looked at like I let them all down. And I thought, this isn't God's work, or not supposed to be God's work. Is there even a God? People behaving like this. And it did make you question everything that you always stood for, everything that you believed in. It was a major disappointment. Mum and Dad continued to go to Mass. They were wonderful until, that is, it came out about all the abuse and everything else that went on in the Catholic Church. And from that day onwards, my parents chose not to be part of that organisation. It's very sad, really, that people have genuine belief. People really do care and really devote their lives to this sort of thing, when, in my eyes, personally, it's all a farce. It's a cover-up. It's a cult. And unfortunately, because of that experience and because of my own observations, I have come to see all mainstream religions cults. The Catholic Church and any other church, excuse me, would be the first to label a cult, would be the first to point a finger at you and me and to call us pagans and devil worshippers and everything else, when in fact the spiritual life that we live now is probably healthier, is more accepting of everybody, is one that is based on caring, kindness, good moral standing, everything that all these religions are supposed to stand for. And throughout history and time, we've got, look at the knights, that they went out and murdered and pillaged and to convert tribes, into Christianity. Look at all the religions that people are beheaded, people are stoned to death, even in today's age. And it's really, really quite frightening that all this is done in the name of religion. And so, as such, bye-bye went my religious days, and hello came my spiritual days. And this is the deck that set me on that route. Now, like I say, I was never perfect reading this. I would constantly use this little white book, and I'd think, why isn't this staying in my head? Why can't I interpret these cards like you'd see people on TV? You'd see, tales of the unexpected and all this sort of thing with, with the tarot being used and what have you. And life then took over. I worked for BT for a number of years. I worked as initially an operator, then an engineer. I took redundancy a few years later, and I used that money to put myself through university. And in that time, I got my Bachelor of Education, I started teaching, and I taught then for the next 20 years. I got married, 3 children, and I moved countries from Wales to here in Ireland. And in that process, my little tarot deck was still in my locker, and it wasn't until I was unboxing boxes that we had packed stuff in. First of all, from when I lived at my parents, it was in their loft, and then years later, oh, this box is yours, do you want to take it with you? Yeah, okay, I'll take it with me, don't know what's in it. That I put my hand in and found my tarot deck. And I thought, oh my God, look, here it is. So that, once again, sat on a shelf now, on my bookshelf. I never really bothered with it, Like I say, life got in the way. I married, I was a successful teacher, had 3 beautiful children, and didn't have time for much else, to be honest. Unfortunately, 10 years ago, I was diagnosed with triple negative cancer, and that was a turning point. I had to take early retirement, and I thought, how am I going to fill my time? So that was a turning point. That's when I nosedived as deep as you can get into tarot. I read every book I could read. I started studying the cards in depth. I started reading properly, interpreting the cards, meditating on the cards, and thoroughly enjoying the cards, using them how they were supposed to be used. And it took my mind off illness. It took my mind off feeling sorry for myself. And I then, that year, joined a meditation group here in our hometown. In this meditation group, there was a lady who read cards. They weren't tarot, they were oracle cards. So this is where a milestone came in. I have a couple of milestones. This is the first milestone. So my tarot was still sitting on my shelf at home, having not been touched. And only after I was diagnosed did it come out, and I started delving really deep. So what happened then, this lady was reading oracle cards, and I went and had a look at them. And she had oracle cards, but she also had a tarot card that was read more like an oracle card. And the cards that she used were these ones here. I have quite a selection of them. They were all the Doreen Virtue cards. So although she had, some cards like oracle decks, which I have in my drawer over there, she also had these Doreen Virtue and Radley Valentine Angel Tarot cards. So I thought, oh, this might help me. And they actually did, and these would be the cards. I've kept them. I could never get rid of them because these played a big part in me delving even deeper. Okay, so you'd have your card, it would have keywords on, it would have sayings on, you could read it, and they were nice, gentle. I actually don't use them anymore, but like I say, I never get rid of them because they played such a big role in me getting really deep, in a way deeper into tarot. So I started reading these then, and of course, someone did a complete U-turn, but I never stopped with these decks simply because a person might create something, but when that something becomes yours, you own something, it's your energy on it, not the negative energy of doing U-turns or not believing in your own work. People have the right to change their mind, but when they change their mind, they don't have the right to change yours if you've chosen to use these. Okay, so this was one of my favourite ones actually. This was the Archangel Power Tarot cards, and these were lovely. So these were added to my collection of cards and boosted my reading abilities. Like I say, I'll always keep hold of them. They sit there on my shelf because, like I say, they're part of my tarot history. So this was one milestone. The one that I bought this, it's Angel Wisdom Tarot, and this was when the change was happening, and this is it's just by Radley Valentine. And do you know, I've got these. I've never actually used them, and I've had them for years. The cards are brand new, but I've never actually used them. I might actually give them a go, But like I say, all these added up to me now getting much more involved. So that's the beginning. That's the beginning of my tarot journey. Okay. I had the tarot for 30 years. I dipped in and out of it, dabbled with it, but it wasn't until a tower moment in my life shook my world apart, ended my career rather abruptly, and made me look at what can I do to fill my time. I don't think I could have picked a better thing to do, to be perfectly honest. So that was then. Okay. The deepening. What actually deepened my study? Now this added to it. What deepened my study is the following. Let me just pop these into their box. Now this took me down, you know, I was now heavily down the tarot rabbit hole and wanting to look at all things tarot. So the first thing I did was look at Marseille decks, and this and these three here are my favourite Marseille decks. I have the Marshmallow Marseille, I have the Tarot Siren, and I have the Squid Cake. Okay, tarot. These are all Marseille decks. I do have other Marseille decks, but these are the ones that I really do like. So I'll pop these two back on the shelf, because the one I'm going to tell you about now, which really did help to deepen my love of tarot, was the Marshmallow Marseille, and this book that I used to work through, Tarot on Earth by Tom Benjamin. Now, I got this years ago, and you can see all my workings in there. Now, this book really helped me to understand Marseille, because, you know, you don't have the images as you do on an RWS, and you sort of have to say, well, hold on, how can that Four of Pentacles, how can I remember what it is? And this is where you are using a whole plethora of history. You're having to dig deep into your well of knowledge in order to interpret them, because, you know, at the end of the day, somebody say, well, it's just four wheels on a page. How does that mean that? Well, that's because it's the Four of Pentacles. We know it's that, okay? But equally, we use numerology, okay? Add numerology to that. Anything that you've learned. But the Marshmallow Marseille is a really lovely deck. At one point, I think it might have gone out of print. I'm not sure. I don't think it has now. I think it's back. Love the backs on them. Look at that. But this was a deck that I thought, oh, I'm going to love this. The art got me. Even the pip decks, you know, got me. You know, the pip cards. I just fell in love with it, and it's thanks to Tom Benjamin's Tarot on Earth that helped me understand Marseille. And it's a book that I highly recommend if you are thinking of going the Marseille route and you're not sure. Look out for this. It's a very practical book, okay? Very practical, and it can be bought on his site. In fact, he's just bought, I have another book of his Tarot Toolbox that looks at the RWS, and another deck has come, another book has come out of his very recently, and it's, gosh, oh, the title escapes me, but it's another book that looks at divination in nature and everywhere else, okay? So yes, so this is the Marseille deck that took me down the Marseille route, and Tom Benjamin, the author of this book, was the one that helped me. I used to take my son to Dublin every 4 weeks for a long time, because he was having his arms tattooed. He's got full sleeves. One side is Viking, the other side is Japanese, and he used to have about 4 or 5 sittings of about 8 hours each, and every single time this and this deck accompanied me, because I would sit there quietly in the back and I would work away on my tarot, and it was great. It was absolutely brilliant. Now, another thing that has helped me deepen my tarot experiences is the following. Just pop this back there. Get ready for it. Now, I do have newer decks, but this was an old one that found its way to me. I don't know who sent it to me. I still have never found out. It's the Thoth Tarot. Now, this is a greenie. Okay, this is sought after greenie. And it landed on my door for nothing. No letter, no nothing. But I took it in. My daughter freaked. She went to watch that movie, Tarot, didn't she? You've got a tarot, you don't know where it's come from. Spin it. Not a chance. This with the Thoth Companion. I've gone down the Thoth route as well as the Marseille route as well as the RWS route, and you know, I'm enjoying every bit of it. And we have all the cards, okay, that I need to read the Thoth. This is the Thoth tarot deck. It's the Aleister Crowley deck. This is, I think this was 1971 when I was looking up for it. There's very little information on the earlier decks out there, very little. But this, I believe, is called a greenie, and like I say, it happened to land on my doorstep out of the blue. It was sent from abroad. I was expecting a tarot deck to arrive at the time that I'd ordered from Amazon, and it was an Aleister Crowley deck as well, but a modern version, much smaller version. When I was actually chatting to my postman on the doorstep, because he'll stop and have a cup of tea at times, and I opened it up. He says, "Another tarot deck?" I said, "Yeah." I went, "Ooh," because I saw this box. Oh, ooh, where's that come from? And it was from another country. And he said, "You didn't order that?" He goes, "No." He goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, Elaine." He says, "That's," his words were, "that's shitting me up. I'm not really fond of that." So off he trotted, and in I came. I opened this deck up and I fell in love with it. This doesn't actually sit with my tarot decks. This sits on this desk here because it's one of my go-to decks along with my RWS 2.0. So there you go. That's the Greenie Thoth deck, and this is one of the many Thoth books I have that I'm ploughing through. So yeah, that was something that deepened my tarot practice and my tarot journey. Other things that helped to deepen my practice was actually journaling about tarot, but I decided not to journal as in normal journaling. I decided to create a tarot grimoire, and in that, come on, in you go please. Isn't it fun when you just can't get the decks into their boxes? Just open them and slide them in. So I sort of stuck tape on this one to hold it together, and like I say, it sits here on my desk. Sorry about that banging there. Ooh, just dropped a keyboard. So this tarot grimoire that I created, it has a tarot deck glued inside. In fact, it's one of Conrad Stein's deck. I bought the small one so I could use it in this particular journal, where I have put not only the historical meanings of cards, but added my own interpretations too. And let me just get it down here for you, because it's quite a book, and I've got things piled up on top of it. I should have had this ready actually. Sorry about this. It's this. This is it. Okay. And in here, there's still work to be done in it, but I look at, here we go, we're looking at the Fool, for instance, here. Okay, so the card is there, and then I've got the symbol, the element, the planet, the zodiac sign, and then the key symbolic meanings, and you know, there's tarot cards stuck in here. We look at the elements inside here, we look at astrology, and all the signs, you know, inside here. This is a book that I hope in time will pass down to my own children, and each card, as you can see, it's all handwritten, and it's one that I will pass down in time. Other decks that really did take me down other rabbit holes when it comes to tarot was the Ancestral Path Tarot, and that actually was phenomenal, because I worked that deck hand in glove with a couple of ancestral books, where it introduced me to a lot of ancestral work, and it deepened my spiritual practices as well, because it not only enhanced tarot per se, it enhanced me, my meditation, and my link with my ancestors, my link with my past loved ones, and it gave me a level of comfort that I have never ever had in any mainstream religion. Once I left Catholicism, I was born a Catholic, I was raised a Catholic, I went into the convent. Once I came out of there, I never sought any other religion. Religion for me at that point was finito. For me, it was, oops, sorry, hit the camera there, it was doing my own thing, my way. So, the now. What do I use now? Well, do you know, now I'm very much into divination in the sense of the pendulum. I use divinatory rods. I use story cubes. I use charms, big into my charms, and charm casting. I find it really enhances tarot reading. When I now, my tarot reading has taken me on to having clients. I use sets of cards, and here I'm bringing in a milestone with where I am now. So take, for instance, my Tarotica decks. I'll take all of them. Say I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plus the one I use, which is my Dark Mansion. And I'll put them in my bag, I'll take them over to neighbours, and we have tarot around the table. And I'll give them each a deck to use, and that's the only time other people get to handle my decks. I'll either use my Chura Marchetti or my Tarotica decks, and they come with me, and each person's given a deck. They shuffle, pull 5 cards. I pull 5 cards out of whatever deck I'm using, which is either my Dark Mansion or my RWS 2.0. Which travels with me everywhere, and I'll pull 5 cards, and then they'll have a 10 card reading. Okay, so this is with me all the time. It's the RWS. I've never left RWS at all, despite the fact that I have deepened my tarot understanding by learning about Marseille, by learning about Thoth. This is my go-to, the RWS and RWS based cards. So like Tarotica, Chura Marchetti, you know, a whole heap of decks that I've got here to beat the band. These are all cards that I would find easier to read, easier on the eye, less taxing on the brain. But I must be honest, when it comes to less taxing on the brain, I find I'm actually getting on okay with Thoth, and combining Thoth and RWS decks is actually something that gives you really good, strong readings. So that's what I'm doing now. Now, getting back to the original one that I had, when I had joined this meditation group and was learning to read oracle cards more so than tarot cards, I met somebody there, and I said, oh no, I'm very much into the tarot. And she says, oh, if I ran a tarot course here, would you come? So I said, yeah, because at this point in time, like I said, I was just self-taught through books and everything else, and she was getting a woman in to come and do official lessons. They were all right. I did the course mainly because I was supporting her in her venture, but my tarot took off. My tarot took off like I never expected it to. I have regular clients, I get new clients, I do group readings, I do all that sort of thing, you know, and it's lovely to see when somebody has a reading from you that they sometimes get closure, or they get an explanation of things, or they even get not so much closure, but if there's a situation going on in their life and it's like food for thought, it gives them something else to contemplate, another way of looking at things, and it might help them to see that, well, you know, the situation appears bad now, but it's not always going to be that way. And you know, you can make the readings lovely and positive, read the cards to them, tell them, see, when do I read reversals? Not particularly, but I do look at the light and dark side of each card. So if they're saying, well, will I get a promotion in work, and you might have the Sun card, and typically speaking the Sun card would be a yes, but because I don't read reversals, I read the card as something along the lines of, oh yes, it looks like there's the potential that you are going to get that promotion, but albeit that is looking good, it's looking positive, bear in mind to not get overconfident. Don't get too cocky about it. Don't be like Icarus, who flew too close to the sun and plummeted to the earth. You know, that sort of thing. But the way you're going right now, if you can maintain, a good outlook, if you can not allow a promotion to change you towards your colleagues and make you big-headed, and yes, I do speak like that, if you can actually remember where you came from, you will make a good boss, you will make a good supervisor. Don't kick it all out of the park by turning around and being arrogant or being too cocky that you end up ruining it for yourself. So that sort of thing, that's the sort of slant I take on things. The here and now with this, if I had my life over again, the only thing I would change, I wouldn't even change going to the convent, because that was a big learning curve for me. What I would change would be getting involved in tarot a lot sooner, not letting it go to waste for all those years. But on saying that, I had a thriving career. It helped get us our home. I have had the most wonderful experiences being a teacher, and I am now having the most wonderful, amazing, out-of-this-world experience being somebody who practice my own spirituality. I read tarot. I mix tarot with my gardening, would you believe? I actually do tarot from the potting shed, and sometimes I'll go, right, okay, I want to plant these. Just give me a little bit of advice here. If I plant them here, what's the likelihood of them growing? And yeah, I do that. I go foraging. I appreciate being alive a lot more, and tarot has played a big part in that. And the fact that I have got to know tarot as well as I have, I've astounded myself. I think I've taken on what I was actually born to do, albeit late in life. Even my family, who would never have given tarot a second look, have me reading for them now, which is something that's really made us bond. And if any of them have a question, do me a favour and just have a look. What do you think? And it's wonderful. It's remarkable. It gives me pin money. It's just something that I thoroughly enjoy. I wish, like I say, I had got into it sooner than I have. But if that was the case, I'd be wishing my life away. Everything that we've gone through in this life has been a learning. It's been on the road that we're supposed to be on at the time. It's come into my life when it was supposed to. I find that, I've gone completely off topic. I do digress. I do think there's something wrong with me at times, because I go, oh, by the way, this original deck, yes. So when I was going with this group and doing all the cards and what have you, there was a girl there who said she wanted to go and do tarot, and she said, I don't have a tarot deck. And I said, oh, I'll tell you what, I said, here you go, have that. Because at this point in time, I had bought this one, as well as having my own, my first one. I don't know why I got a second one, I just did. And then I had already started collecting more tarot cards, and so I gave my original one away. And it was exactly the same cover, exactly the same backs on the cards, so it's just not the original one I started out with. But yeah, that's it. That's my journey through tarot. Tarot journey through decks. I was actually introduced to my workhorse by Simon from the Hermit's Cave. It was my first ever make-playing cards deck that I purchased, and I fell in love with it immediately. I love the way the colours bleed through the black border. Some might say, well, why have a border on it anyway if you're going to allow the colours to bleed through? But the way I view this, which I'm sure I've said on here many a time, is that to me the borders, the colours bleeding through the borders, is this deck saying that no, we can't be boxed in. No, we can't be sidelined, because whatever hurdle or fence is put around us, we will step out of that. We will step out and go down the path we want to go with or without borders. No borders are going to stop us progressing as we want to in life, unless you allow them to. So on that note, folks, I'm going to finish there. I've thoroughly enjoyed sharing this with you. Apologies if it's gone on a bit too long, but that's it. That is my tarot journey through the decks. And if you want to do a VR to this, it's started by Simon from the Hermit's Cave. Hashtag tarot journey through decks. And the prompts are the beginning, the deepening, the now, and then milestones. If you saw, I put milestones in both a couple of times. But that's it. Take care. Have a lovely evening. I am now going to head off and prepare for an English class I'm doing this evening. Bye now.